What's up, everyone? Marco here from Crypto Mining Lab, back again with another video. In today's video is gonna be an introduction into a firmware that will be used to overclock the Whatsminer. I understand in the market there's a lot of firmwares for the Antminer S19, but when it comes to Whatsminer, there's really a limited choice. So in today's video, we're gonna be bringing the overclocking firmware from Asic Shield. So basically, it's a firmware that will work with most of the Whatsminer models, starting from the M20, M30, the M50. The M60 is kind of brand new, but it will be supported in the near future. So this video is gonna serve as an introduction as well as give you more instruction on how to use the firmware, how to install the firmware, and how the changes you're gonna do on the firmware that will affect your hash rate as well as your power consumption. The firmware has a few features that you cannot find on the stock firmware that comes with a miner. For example, you can set a target of your frequency for the chips. You can change the speed fan if you're running the miners on air cooled, so you can adjust the speed fan if it's too noisy. If you're living in a cold area where you don't need the fan to spin that much, you can reduce that, which will reduce the noise as well. And also what you can do is it's not just increasing the frequency, you can lower it, you can limit the voltage that will be supplied to the hash ports. You can limit the maximum power that will be used by the power supply. You can increase it or decrease it. So depends on what you're trying to achieve exactly. If you're trying to go for the maximum hash rate, so obviously you're gonna raise the limit of the power supply and increase the target frequency as well as the voltage. But if you're trying to be achieve like a more efficient numbers, then you can play with a little bit with the frequency as well as limit the voltage as well as the power consumption. So there's a lot of things that you can do with this firmware, and I will try to do a brief video and show you the way on how to install it. It's very easy to install. You don't need that much of tools and things to in order to install the firmware. So with no further to do, let's get started and I'll show you guys on how to use the firmware.
Okay, so first of all, before we can flash the firmware into your ASIC, what we need to do is, first of all, you need the Whatsminer tool. This will be used to flash the firmware into your miner. You can download that directly from whatsminer.com. So you go to support, then firmware and tools, and then you will find it here at tools download. So this is the latest version. You can download it from here. I've already done that. And also what you have here, so just in case if you don't if you cannot flash the firmware through this tool, what you can do as well is you have the SD card flashing programs here. So for different depends on which control board that you have, you can use these different programs to flash the firmware. But mostly, I haven't encountered any problem with flashing any Whatsminer with a tool. But in case you have that problem, you can use one of these tools. Depends on the control board that you have for flashing the firmware. But in today's example, we'll be using the tool. And the next thing that we need is we need the firmware itself. So in order to download the firmware, you need to go to asicshield.com and then you go to firmware overclocking. And this is the page actually. You have some information here. Telling you all the benefits that you get from, which I will explain later in this video. But for now, what we need to download is basically we have two different firmwares here. The only difference here is this is runs with a single PSU firmware, means either you're running your ASIC miner on air cooled or immersion cooled or water cooled converted into water cooled, but you're only using the original PSU that comes with a miner. So you'll be using this one. Download this one from here. Or if there are other options, if you need to, because remember the PSU, the original PSU from Whatsminer has a limit of 4,000 watts. So There are other solutions where you can add an extra PSU to the miner, so you can push the boundary in terms of power consumption. Uh, we have done videos on that as well. So if you are using the second PSU, you need to download this one. And what also you can download is if you are running, if you're trying to run the firmware for immersion cooling or hydro cooling, what you have to do is you need to flash your PSU as well. Uh, the reason why is because the PSU has the fan that will report. Because if you're running on immersion cooling, you need to remove that fan, which means that the miner would report an error that fan is not connected, it's not running. So in order to avoid that, you can install the firmware based on the model of the PSU you have on your ASIC miner. But for today's example, the miner we're going to be using is going to be running on air cooled, and we'll be just flashing the firmware. And I will show you later in the video on where you can use this firmware. This is a small firmware just to flash the PSU, and you can do it through not using the Whatsminer tool, but after you enter the interface, after flashing the firmware, you can enter the interface and use the interface to flash the power supply. So for now, I have downloaded both of these, the firmware as well as the Whatsminer tool. So this is the Whatsminer tool here. I have it here downloaded, and I have the Asic Shield firmware here. So remember this is a single firmware that will work with any series, the M2X, the M3X, and the M5X. And also there's an upgrade coming very soon that will be supporting the latest model from the M60 from Whatsminer. So let's start from here. So you will be using this Whatsminer tool to flash the firmware. Uh, if you're already running any Whatsminer, you should have this tool already. If not, after you don't have to install this, so you just execute the program. In order to scan your network for any existing miners connected to the network, you need to set up your IP address range. Here it says my range is 50. Once I already add this one, you can check your you go to your network setting and see what's the range of your IP address. So I set up already mine starts from 50.1 to 50.255. So that's the range that my network is running on. And then you click on OK. Then you start your miner. Once the miner is started and connected to the network, then you hit start, and then the tool will start looking for the miners connected into the network. All right, so once you start, you hit start here, and the tool will start scanning the network. So as you can see here, the tool already found the miner that is connected to the network. For our example, here you see the miner type is the M31S. The power version is here. So if you check, this is the P21D, just like I mentioned earlier. So if you go back here to the Asic Shield website here, 21D, that's what we have. So if you need to flash the PSU, you will be downloading this firmware for the power supply to use it on an immersion setup. And then once you have the miner here, what do you do? In order to flash the firmware from Asic Shield, you select the miner here. So you click on here, and then you go to update. Then you click on select file, and then we're gonna browse on our laptop to find the firmware that we downloaded earlier. So here it is. Select this one, you hit open, and then what you do is start update. Once you start update, you can see here the status here shows transferring. So the firmware is transferring the tool is transferring the firmware from the computer to the miner. As you can see here now, it's just changed to updating. So do not turn on the miner until it completes everything, and it will restart itself. So basically, right now it's updating the firmware. You just have to wait for it. It will take a couple minutes. Once it's updated, the miner will restart, and then you shall see the updated interface for the miner, which I will show you in a moment. As you can see here, right now the status says success. So we have flashed the firmware to the miner successfully, and we should be able to go to the miner interface. I think it's still starting, so we'll just give it few seconds for the miner to just as you can see here. So right now you can see the firmware went from Whatsminer, and now we are using the Asic Shield firmware. So authorization required. The username and the password both are the same, so it's admin. And right now this is the new interface. Actually, it's very similar to the original one, the original firmware from Whatsminer. The only difference is you will have an extra uh, so configuration here, miner configuration. So if you go to configurations here, what you can see is you will have an extra menu for sorry, go to miner configuration. So you will have an extra menu here showing overclock. So on the original firmware, you don't have this section and also the PSU control. So if you check this window here, so right now we already installed the firmware here, and I will explain and go through all the options you have here and what you can do with all of these settings that you can change. Remember, this is after installing SHL firmware. So running the original firmware from Whatsminer is not going to be giving you the option to modify any of these settings. So let's start with the first one. So this is it's saying liquid cooling. So if you are running uh, the miner on a liquid cooling setup, so you have to check this one. But because for me I'm not running it's run on air cooled. The reason why you need to do this for liquid cooling is because you will be removing the fans for immersion cooling, and that will give you an error for the fan that is not running. So in order to avoid that, you just go to check this liquid cooling case, and then the firmware will be disabled on the fans, so you don't have to use any fan spoofers. Right, so here, if you are running, let's say, on air cooled, and you want to have control over the fan speed, you can adjust your fan speed here, and then obviously you need to restart the miner. So basically, if you're running the miners in the cold weather and in winter, you don't want it to run on especially for Whatsminer, the fans running really on high pitch, so they make a lot of noise. You can find exactly which percentage of your fan that will keep your miner cool enough and reduce the noise. So you have the fan speed control here. Here this is a preset. Comes from the factory, so you can set up on a low, normal, or high mode. So this film, even from the factory, you can run 3 different profiles. But here what we have is the advanced options. So this is the target frequency. The default one, as you can see here, the default one is 652 for this miner, and then you can go up to 1194 hertz for the frequency. You can set up any, so basically it's running right now on 652. You can go, let's say, to 750, and then the target voltage. This is milli voltage. So this is the current voltage. The default voltage will be 1170. So the maximum we can go to 1400. And let's say just rise this. So what this will give you if you rise this target voltage, so it will allow the miner to draw more power and make an extra gain on the hash rate. The same thing applies for the frequency. So the frequency increases, it will require more power, and then it will result in gains in terms of hash rate. But you can do the opposite, where you can reduce your let's say reduce your frequency, or you can keep the frequency as it is, but you can limit your voltage, the target voltage, and then you can run more efficiently to lower the power consumption. So the overclocking doesn't mean always to consume more power, but you can use it to reduce power consumption as well. This is the minimum voltage. You just I think you just give it as default, so it starts. Because remember the firmware from Whatsminer, it's not an exact, so it doesn't run on exact setup that you're gonna set up here. So it will do some kind of auto tuning. It will start from the minimum voltage here, and it will start to increase until it gets to the target voltage that you set. So you can leave it as default, or you can just increase it so it doesn't take much time for the auto tuning. And this is the maximum voltage as well. You can keep it as it is, because the maximum here would be 1450. You can keep it at 1400. The target board temperature, this is where because the target board temperature, the miners would not start mining until they reach this temperature. So, and the firmware, the whole program will try to keep the board's temperature within this range. So the maximum is 78, and the minimum is 70. So you can decrease this if you're running it in a cool weather, or you can just keep it as it is. Okay, so this is the PSU power limit. You just leave it at the default, which is 3600. And then what we can do here is increase the PSU power maximum. This is set at the default is 3800. So in this case, you don't have to do anything, because, or we can just put it as the maximum. So sorry, 3800. And then what we can do now is save and apply. Once we save and apply, the miner will restart to apply the changes. So it's done, and the next thing I will show you here will be so the miner actually it's restarting, so it will do its thing. And then the PSU control here, as I said earlier, what you can do is, if you're running this your miner on an immersion setup or liquid cooled setup, what you can do is you can go to the website here, Asic Shield. The one that I'm running here is let's check the power supply. I forgot it was 21D. Yes, the P21D, and then we can download that one. 21D, we can download that one, and then once it's downloaded, we have to unzip the file from the zip file, and then once it's extracted from that one, what we can do is we use the file, and then we use the interface, not the tool itself, but we use the interface here, and then we update the firmware. So you see, and it's connecting directly actually to the internet. So and it's installing it directly from the internet. As you can see, installing the firmware, so it's connecting directly to the internet. And once it's done, it will install that. What you can do is actually enable or disable the power supply fan. So if you're running the miner on an immersion setup, or you converted your miner into let's say water cooled setup, you can disable that or enable it just by clicking here. But in order to control that, what you need to do is you have to upgrade your PSU firmware. So once it's done, it will give you the option to enable or disable the power supply fan. All right, so everything is done. As you can see here, we can go back to our miner configurations, overclocking, and see. As you can see, I already saved all the options here that I did earlier. The modification that I did, I already saved. Now, what we can do is set up our pool. So here you set up your pool, and then once your pool is set properly, then so you have three pools here, three options: the first, second, third pool, then your worker name as well as the password. Once it's all set up, you save and apply, and then the firmware will the miner will restart, and you should be seeing the miner hashing just after restarting. Just keep in mind that every time you restart the miner, this is something to do with so as you can see here, as I was explaining earlier, so now we can enable or disable the power fans, but because we are running on air cooled, so we'll just enable them, and then you just click on enable power fans, and should be running. So you can convert all the time between immersion, liquid cooled, or air cooled. So this will give you the option to control the fan all the time. Once it's done, you should be seeing hash rates on your ASIC. So